to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we build products in public. Each week, we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we share our struggles, our wins, and everything in between. I'm Benedict, and I'm feeling determined.
I'm Benedicte. Today is February 28th, the last of the month. This is episode number 172, and I'm feeling a little overwhelmed.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I know. I like determined better. Maybe I'll just I'm determined. I'm in charge of my life. I don't feel overwhelmed. I'm just very determined to get a lot of things done.
Yep. That's the plan.
That's the plan.
What's going on? What makes you feel overwhelmed?
Well, I was feeling like we had a lot going on. As I said, last time I've been feeling, I've had a cold that never kind of went away. And then last week I was like, oh, everything is so up in the air. So I kind of was, tired, I guess. And I probably didn't realize how tired because later that week, instead of going on vacation, the whole family just spent a couple of days puking, which is always
nice.
Always a fun activity.
Always feels overwhelming.
It feels, I don't know, every time, it's been a while, but every time at some point in there, I know, you'll survive it. It's not a fatal, disease, but my whole being just kind of quits. And just this is never, ever, nothing is ever going to change. And my life up until now has been stupid. And I don't know what it is. I just feel, it's not a good thing. But silver lining is this all kind of started half an hour into our trip to the cabin without running water or electricity, where we were supposed to meet up with another family. And I can just imagine. I'll let you imagine how this would play out if we had gone up there and gotten those two kids and those two adults sick as well in a cabin with no running water. So silver lining.
Yeah, dodged the bullet.
All of that. Oh yeah. So in some way dodged the bullet. But we got these lovely photos of beautiful sun, crisp cross-country ski tracks. So that felt, yeah. That's life, I guess. And then yesterday I was just so tired, but I got a lot of stuff done. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to skip dance class tonight because, I'm tired. I've been sick. I deserve to just have a break. And then I told myself, you feel better after dancing. So I went, and it was rejuvenating.
Nice.
I thought when I left there yesterday, I was hope nobody asks me to do anything or join anything in the next hour, because I'd be like, yes, I can do more. Which I feel good, but I don't have more to give. I can't say yes to anything more, but nobody did, luckily. So I got saved by that. But over to you, determined. That is a better.
Yeah, maybe. It's the last of the month, and initially we set out with the goal of launching the reporting stuff by the end of the month. That didn't quite work out, but I'm determined.
It's a very short month. It's a very short
month, yeah. But still, the plan was to get more done than we did get done. But overall, I'm super excited about this, and also pretty happy with the progress we made. Because in theory, as I mentioned a couple of times already, it's in a shippable state, and I guess we're going to ship it at least behind the feature flag to get some feedback. But there's still a bunch of work left for me to do on the back end. To get it actually to be a real-time analytics thing instead of a not quite accurate, only 15 minutes increment stuff that we're currently doing. But I'm determined to get most of this done this week.
So what do you need to change to make it be real-time?
So right now what we're doing is we're looking at the sent messages and computing the analytics based on the messages in the database. And that's a materialized view in the database. So it only gets updated every 15 minutes or so by recomputing it. And well, that's the one downside. It's only accurate to 15 minutes, which isn't, I mean, it's okay. It's not too bad, I guess. But what's more of a problem is that whenever we delete a user or one of our customers deletes a user from the system because they unsubscribed or whatever, or they canceled their account, we also remove all their messages. So the stats change.
So you can no longer okay, so you can no longer recalculate then that stat.
Yeah, we can recalculate, and we do recalculate, but then the number of delivered messages slowly goes down.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like it's no longer part of the recalculation.
Exactly. So
yeah.
Overall, I guess the stats still kind of make sense, but it's also a lie, right? It's not 100% accurate. So what we need to do instead is write those numbers into a separate table that doesn't get cleared when a user gets deleted. And then by also removing the materialized view to a more like real-time thing where we just update the data as stuff happens. We basically get the best of both things. Like we get the accurate numbers and the real-time stuff because we're not only recomputing every 15 minutes, but when stuff happens. And I've got a proof of concept implementation working. I don't like the implementation, but it's doing its job. So my task for the rest of the week is adding a lot of tests and then refactoring it a little bit so it still does what it should do, but the code is a little bit better and a little bit more modular than what we have today. And I'm determined to get this done this week, or at least make
this month.
Decent.
No, just kidding.
Well, yes. Well, then I should probably go back to work. Now, get as much of it done this week, and then either we can roll it out next week, or if I'm not done with the backend side of things, we can at least roll out kind of working version with the kind of accurate numbers, at least to get some feedback, because I feel like the UI is in a good shape. We had a long call last week with the team to discuss, like, just are we tracking the right stuff? Are we showing the right numbers? Tweaking the layout a little bit. So all of that is okay, and it's a good state and ready to be shipped. And then the backend side of things, yeah, I mean, still needs to be done, but it's okay. Like if that's a little late, it's not a deal breaker, I guess. So yeah, that's why I'm determined.
Well, I like it.
Yeah,
you'll get it done, I'm sure.
Yeah, eventually.
Eventually. Is it the new message composer?
It's not that bad. No, definitely not. I mean, when did you start with this? Like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. So it's still okay. It's not months.
I'm just pulling your leg or whatever that how that saying goes.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, overall, things are moving forward and should be able to ship something real soon.
Cool.
Yeah, but that's about it. Like, not much else happened. The only other thing that threw things off a little bit was we once again had a customer cancel that had a lot of data in the system. And deleting all of that data becomes a real problem.
Does it slow down, like physically slow down the database, or
yes?
Okay.
So this was a large customer who had been using us only for a couple of months, honestly. And we weren't quite sure about them being a good fit from the start because they were only using like 5% of the system. But they had it connected to Segment and they were sending a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff. And then when they canceled, we of course like delete all their data. And right now it's the very naive implementation of like just delete from table events where account ID equals whatever. And that just takes forever. And what's worse is it also uses a lot of the disk IO capacity. And we had an incident last week where basically that deletes took all the disk capacity for itself, and then everything else slowed down quite a bit. So we had to kill it, and then basically over a couple of days just delete the stuff in chunks, like in smaller chunks. So eventually it was gone, but like the naive implementation doesn't work anymore. So
is it possible to set? Do databases have this concept where you can be like, I want this to be deleted, but you can just like slot it around other things? like it's not important. Like it's not an important query. Like do it whenever there's room or time, or I don't know what the terminology is.
I don't know. I mean, there might be something, but I don't really know about it. And I guess it also goes a little bit against like the nature of transactional databases, where it just like wants to be in a consistent state all the time. And I think that what you just suggested is a good idea, but it's also a little bit counter to that everything's always consistent type of thing. So we're looking at a couple of options of what we can do. Is like either like build that batching or like that small increment deletion right into the code base. Or the other thing we're thinking about is using partitioning to basically create separate partitions for all our customers. So instead of then going through the database or through the table and like deleting all their individual events, we can just drop the entire partition, which is a much faster operation.
That sounds fast.
Yeah, it's super fast in theory, but it's also a ton of work to get partitioning into the system. But I think we should do it because it has a lot of other benefits of like just like keeping data localized, which would help with a lot of other problems as well. So I guess we're looking at it, but it's not an easy task. So yeah, that's something for later this year, I guess.
Always something to do, right?
Oh, always. Yeah, it's never there's always something. Plus the stuff you didn't plan for, right?
Luckily, nobody has asked me to delete their Prune Your Follow data because that is not implemented. If somebody, please don't. If somebody sends me, like the right to be forgotten request or what that action is called. But then again, on that note, Prune Your Follows just unfollow or facilitated 25,000 unfollows.
Ooh, that's a lot.
That is a lot, especially given that you can only do 50 at a time, and as a user, and that of course, it gets blocked if there's more than 500 in a day, which don't really happen anymore because the usage is much more spread out during the week. So people will come in and they'll do their 50, and then they'll come back hopefully and like do another 50. But still, I feel like 25,000 is a lot, and it's and I think I think is exactly at like 960 users. So let's say it's roughly 1,000 users. It's like 25 unfollows per user. So some people I think are unfollowing a lot more, and some people are just like not. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make a query that kind of shows the distribution a little bit. That would be fun to see, like how many people fall in the 0 to 10 category. And I think with Xata they have this like aggregation setup, which makes it easy to do that kind of queries without me having to do that on the transactional database, I guess. Trying to learn more about these things. Anyway, because on Monday we're going to interview somebody for the Xata podcast. Who could it be, Benedict? Who could it be?
Is it me?
Yes,
is it me? It's me. Yeah, I almost forgot about it. I know it was coming up, but I wasn't aware it's next Monday.
You'll get an email this week, so we'll
Nice.
remind you. But we still, a lot of these things will also going to be worked on over the last couple of weeks. And I've been feeling, a little under the weather. So we're still haven't completely decided on the title for the podcast. I asked on Twitter and I got some good suggestions, which was the Indie Normal Form by Dan Miller. And then Could I Join You by Daniel Pratt. And I was like, replied to him and I was like, oh, you mean as a guest? He was like, no, it was a suggestion for the name. I was like, oh, of course. It turns out that I am not good enough with database jokes. I need to study up before next week. But anyway, the idea here is that we'll interview indie hackers about their data modeling journeys. Like, what data models have they had to change the most? Which ones have they had to change the least? And why do they think that is? And like, what can we learn from that? So, the rest of us don't have to make all the same mistakes that somebody has made already, or, positive experiences they've learned. But then we realized that's kind of what that would be like the season 1 of Xata's podcast. Like, it's not a given that they'll do season 2. So then I was like, oh, maybe the podcast should be named like Xata Pod or something, like these like company podcasts. And then our season is data models, something, something, something. Or if we just called the podcast kind of whatever season 1 is, and then they can change that later. Like, how easy is it to change the podcast name inside of Transistor?
I don't know. Yeah. I feel like changing it after the fact is probably not a good idea. Like, even if it's just like for people not recognizing your podcast anymore in the Podfetcher, right? They subscribe to it once, they know what it is, and then suddenly something else. That might be confusing.
See, and that's what I was suddenly was like, oh, maybe it should just be Xata Pod, a podcast about data and data models, or data and databases, or something like that. And then we'll just introduce it as season 1, where we talk to indie hackers about their data model journey. So that suddenly hit me, of course, coming up on the deadline, because that is when my brain starts working. It does not work until the deadline stares me right in the face. But as titles go, we've had data models in the wild. Do you think? Mm-hmm. Do you like it?
It's very tied to the topic of the first season, which is probably not.
Yeah, now we're thinking. Now we're thinking the first season. Nice. Yeah, and then we also had real world data models.
Well, yeah, that's kind of boring.
Yes, data models in the wild. So either that will be the season, or it will be the podcast. That will be.
Yeah, I'd really consider like a more generic name for the entire podcast, but maybe a little bit more fun than Xata Pod or something like that.
Data in the wild?
Sure, why not?
Yeah. Okay, noting this down. I need to note this down right now.
Data.
Yeah, so that's
yeah.
But then it depends on, what will happen in season 2, season 3, because I can see a season where they or we would talk to more kind of domain experts, because this season we're talking to indie hackers. I wouldn't say that. I know you're pretty good with data models and databases and stuff like that, because you've been doing it for a while. But like, there are some people who don't do anything else. Like, they only work with a specific side of a database. That could also be an interesting kind of season, but that wouldn't really be about the data in the wild. That would be more kind of very.
It's still about data, isn't it? Like, it's all like it's very likely always going to be about data, because it's a database company. So unless they
there's always going to be
unless they pivot to something entirely else, there's a good chance it will be about data, right?
Yes, I would say so. If they pivot to something completely else, they'll have to do completely new marketing anyway. So,
right.
But this is a good talk. It's a good talk. Data in the wild. Then it could be like a podcast from Xata about data.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it. It's obvious about like the label makes it clear what this is about. It's about data, and like data in the wild is okay. That's a play, but kind of people probably understand that it's about like data that's out there in the real world and not just in the lab. So,
because I think that's like what it's important, or what's excited me about doing this podcast is exactly that, like seeing what actually happens when you go into production and things live for a while. Because at least what I learned about databases in university and what you learn about data modeling and kind of databases reading articles, it's very much about perfect scenarios, at least for people who are more beginner. There's probably like really complex, interesting things out there about what happens after the fact, but it's very like expert level. But with indie hackers especially, like a lot of people aren't database experts, and then they start creating a product and you get all these different, you hit some of the same stumbling blocks that a lot of other people do that don't really fit kind of the narrative of the beautifully normalized database that I learned about in university, which I've never seen. Even if I haven't been the one who have been creating the data layer in a lot of the projects I've been on, you look at them and you're like, this is not this is not what they thought. Like, this is completely different. So yeah, that's like where the wild part or the real world part comes in. Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
I like it. So let me know.
You're going to be a guest and listener.
Probably.
And I guess like we should have it done by Monday, because then we'll record with you. But it's only going to be a part of the intro, so we could always re-record the intro if we end up deciding on something completely different.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But it will also be streamed, by the way. I don't know if I told you that, but it will.
Live streamed, like
we're doing right now.
Okay. Good to know. Thanks.
You're welcome. It will be in the email you're getting.
Okay, I should probably prepare a little bit. Yeah, cool.
Do you have to prepare more? Do you have to like fix your hair before you come on the show?
No, I mean like think about what I'm going to say, like so I can sound smart.
Oh, so you don't have to be edited to sound smart. Is that what you're...
Yeah, like just not blabber stupid stuff. No, I mean, looking forward to that email, and then hopefully I get some ideas.
Yes. And we would also love feedback on the email, because then you're kind of our test.
Obviously, yeah.
Test guest. So that's great. And just lastly, to, just make you and everyone who left the corporate world feel good. My 2-day week corporate gig these days, to like finalize the contract, I had to I got this message where it's like, please copy this onto your company letterhead, sign and return. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, it took me such a long time to realize what like the middle company in this scenario wanted. I was like, what? Kind of like, first I just ignored it because I was like, I don't have a letterhead. This doesn't apply to me. And then they were like, please do step 4. And I was like, oh, okay, let me read that again. And I thought they like wanted me to put something like in my signature. And then in the end, I realized they just wanted me to copy paste text onto an official looking letter, because letterheads are those from the olden days. Like, you would print paper with your logo and your address, and then you would write your letters on that, and that would be then your official letters, and then sign it and send back. So I spent more time than I would like to admit to parse that sentence, but then also to go on to Google Doc templates and like find
a letterhead template.
Find a letter. So I chose letter by Spearmint or something was the template that I found. And then I copied it over there, printed it out, signed it, and scanned it, and sent it back. But that was just mind-boggling.
Yeah. That reminds me, I once had a similar situation. I think they didn't necessarily need a letterhead, but I needed stamped, right? Like with like a company stamp. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't have a stamp. Like, why would I? Do you expect me to get one just for this? And like after some back and forth, they were like, okay, yeah, this one time it's okay. We're doing it without having it stamped. Yeah.
It's insane like how some of these things just haven't like followed the world that we live in. Because it makes sense when stamps and pre-printed letter sheet or sheets of letter paper was like hard to come by, and it was something you would have to purchase, and like to be able to purchase it you had to be a legit company, and you could probably like go back to the printer in the town and make sure nobody else was allowed to print your like letterhead and stuff like that. But now, I went on Google templates and was like, this looks good. Okay, this is now my official letterhead forever and ever. It's not very pretty. And any like it just doesn't make any sense. But I just did it because I'm old now. I'm not gonna try to disrupt anything. I just
sometimes it doesn't. It's not worth the time and energy to argue about it, right? Just do it.
And the whole text was about my company taking like social responsibility or something like that. Like we are committed to do.
You're going to treat yourself
socially.
Nice.
Yes, and the world around me.
Yep. That's good. Good on you.
I know. It's like I'm very happy that I got to sign that.
Awesome.
Oh, but it's just so much like what do the Americans call it? Like red sticker tape or sticker tape? Where does that term come from? Like there's like just like a lot of these things just need to be like signed off on, like, where it's just like little hoops. But it's like
just needs to be done. And hopefully just this once, right?
Hopefully, yes. I am now in the partner profile portal. I can now, work with a multitude of clients.
Nice.
Yes.
How's the work so far?
No, so that's what I've been doing. Well, it was winter vacation last week, and it's Norway.
Right. So you started and then already took like 2 days off.
Well, everybody with kids in the office was off last week.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
So, and then I spent time taking compliance courses.
Nice.
So we'll see when I touch code again. Maybe next week.
Well, then good luck with that, I guess. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Not really.
Not really? Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Then...
And if somebody stayed through my whole rant, thank you.
Yeah, then I guess that wraps us up for this week. See you on the internet.